Hey guys, so I'm going to do a Q&A here, and I'm going to try to move fairly quickly. I tend to be long-winded, so I'm going to do my best to keep it short and sweet. So I'll jump right into it. First question I get a lot is, what kind of camera do I use? And I use a Canon G7X for my video, and a Canon Rebel T2i and T7i for most of my photography. Okay, question 2 would be, where can I buy your work? I'm gonna have a big show in San Francisco in October, and actually even thinking, I was just at the gallery yesterday and we've been talking about doing like a YouTube meet and greet. I don't know if anyone's interested. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you guys would be up for. It's San Francisco in October. But anyway, so I'm not gonna have work available probably until that show goes up, and then all that work will be available. A lot of people are kind of curious about prices too. I'll just give you a little idea. This is a painting I did yesterday out on California Street. Actually, I'll be posting a video about that tomorrow. But painting of this size, which is a 10 by 10 framed, is about $600. And I know a lot of you are probably like, wow, that's crazy. But for people who collect art and everything, my prices are really reasonable. And just to give you an idea of how it works, the gallery will take 50% of that, and then the government takes 16% minimum off of that too. So you can see, you know, it's after everybody gets paid, there's not much left for the artist. But if you sell them yourself, obviously you keep the money. So usually what most artists do is they'll sell somewhat in galleries and then also try to sell direct. So I may do that also on Etsy. So I'll have like a website, you know, like an Etsy site, and then sell some smaller work on there. And hopefully some of that will be more affordable. Like 6x6s, the little 6x6s are, I probably could do those for $100. So maybe I'll put some of that small work on an Etsy site. Okay, next question is, am I using and editing on my new computer that Emma gave me, the laptop? And the answer, and everybody's like, oh wow, the editing game is like stepped up since she's using that laptop. Well, I'm still using the iPad, and the reason is this: because I'm trying to post every day, it's gonna take, okay, so let me explain. iMovie on the iPad is a very simple app. It's not the same as iMovie on a computer. The computer has a lot more sort of features, right? So it's a little more difficult to use. And it shouldn't be any problem for me to figure it out, but it's gonna be slower for me at first because I've got to figure, you know, got to learn the new system or learn the new iMovie. And, but the iMovie app on the iPad, for me, because I don't do a lot of like zooming or I don't do a lot of effects or whatever, it was fine. And it's like an iPad mini, and you know, it's like after a day of painting or whatever, I could just go lay down and edit a video, which was great. But I'm looking forward to upping the, you know, the quality of my, or just having more flexibility, editing flexibility. So I am looking forward to using the computer for that. Also, the problem with the iPad is it runs out of memory really quick. I have no storage in there. It's run out of memory really quickly, even though I'm deleting a lot of my video files. So that's the thing that's gonna really help with the computer. It's got a lot of memory and stuff. So anyway, to answer the question, I haven't actually, the next video that goes up, which will be tomorrow, that's like adventure in the city, painting, whatever, that's going to be edited on the iMac. So that answers that question. Okay, let's see, I've got them listed here. Oh, somebody said, what calms me down besides painting? Usually I tend to be pretty calm, but there's times, like, you know, we all get stressed out. There's times where sort of anxiety will kind of, you know, take a hold of me. And in times like that, I find that doing some really simple repetitive task is really helpful and calming. Like, I'm not much of a gardener really, but if I'm stressed out, I will go out in the garden and I'll like trim my hedges and just kind of prune roses or whatever. So you can kind of tell what my mental state is like by looking at my garden. And right now my garden is a disaster, which means that things are going pretty well for me. You know, or at least I'm feeling pretty chill and pretty mellow. Okay, let's see. All right, so then somebody said, how do I feel about vlogging and how did I start? Vlogging, how do I feel about it? I think it's great. I really like it. For me, when I first started doing videos, I was doing a lot of tutorials and whatnot, and that got boring really quickly. It was just sort of tedious. There wasn't a lot of creativity in the actual video making. When I started vlogging, I realized that it's like, there's more art in that, I think. You know, like when I'd go out and I'd shoot, you know, the way I'd like frame a lot of my shots the way I would compose a painting. So I find that it's a lot more creatively interesting for me to do vlogging than it is to do tutorials. And also what's interesting though is a lot of the vlogs I've done where I go out and paint and I show a little of the process, I've gotten emails from people who say, you know, they find them inspirational and motivates them to go out and be creative, and also that they actually learn from them as well. So even though they're not direct tutorials, I think my vlogs can still be informative and maybe even more importantly motivating to actually do something creative and make that a part of your life. So that's what I bring to it. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube. And so let's see. Also, the other thing about it, and you'll see this in the next video, like one of the things that was hardest about vlogging was feeling comfortable in public. And yesterday, I took it to a new level, people. So I was up and I went on California Street, and there was like, in the middle of California Street, there's an island, and where cable cars come, you know, people step onto the cable car there or whatever. But it's perfect for painting because it's right in the middle of the road, and like you look straight down California Street. But there's this, anyway, so as I came up to this island, I saw that there were about 35 tourists on, you know, waiting for cable cars. It was packed. There was barely any room for me. But not only did I set up my easel there, but I actually just started vlogging right away. And it was actually really great. And I met a couple people, you know, some people came up and it was really nice to have that interaction, and you'll see that in the video. But yeah, anyway, that was the hardest thing about vlogging, was just kind of feeling comfortable in public. But it really helps knowing you guys are out there enjoying what I'm doing. So when I put that camera up, it's like, you know, I'm not just talking to a camera, I'm talking to you guys. And that makes me feel like I care if 35 people are laughing at me, you know, or whatever. Who cares, really? So yeah, so I've kind of gotten over that, but that was really a challenge. Now it's almost kind of like, it's weird. I've sort of accepted, like, no, I'm a vlogger, okay? I'm a YouTuber, okay? That's what you know, and I don't need to be like ashamed or embarrassed about that. It's like, man, that camera's going up, you know? And so, no, I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so anyway, and how I started was like when Emma and I both started getting serious about YouTube about a year ago. Obviously, I had my music channel. That's another question I get. I will link my old music channel in the description below. But when we first started doing videos back then, she was kind of showing me certain people, like mostly like beauty gurus and people like Tana Mojo and Shane Dawson and some others, and then I showed her some that she hadn't seen. Like I found Casey Neistat, and I was kind of interested more in vloggers and everything. So that's how I kind of got started in it, like when I saw primarily Casey Neistat. And what I thought was really cool was how he was like in New York City, and he'd just be out and about, and people were like, hey Casey, what's up? And wherever he goes, you know, I thought that was really neat. Like, and he seemed really super friendly to people, and his videos were well edited and all that stuff. So I thought, you know, it was very inspiring. And I thought, wow, I could maybe do something like that with art. Maybe that would be, you know, that could work. And that got me excited about making videos again. And that was my approach, was to do more of a vlog style. Okay, so next one is, what is the key to keeping a healthy relationship with your child? That's a good one. You know, I'm no expert or anything, but I mean, obviously I have my own opinions about this. To me, it's like, I think the key is to respect the fact that your child is an individual and that they are unique and they are not you. You know, they're not, I know, like, say, when Emma, even when she was a little girl, was like, wow, where did this child come from? Like, she was so different from me and very different from her mom. And that's, you know, I think that's just the case with every family. I look at my brothers, we're all completely different. We're totally different from my parents. And I think that that's something that's very important, is to respect your child, even when they're little, to respect them as individuals, and also, you know, not talk down to them and not be, you know, belittle them in any way, and try to communicate in a way that's age appropriate, but that is respectful to them and their, like I said, to their individuality. And I think that's good because, you know, as they become older, especially when they're, you know, maybe in teens and whatever, then, you know, it can, when they come at you with some attitude or some sass, you know, or whatever, you can say, hey, look, you know, like chill, man. I don't treat you that way. You know, I treat you with respect, and I treat you, or whatever. Anyway, and you have some leverage there, because, you know, if you do treat your child that way, then they should treat you that way, and they'll want to. And so anyway, so that's, but even with all that, there's still going to be conflict, and there's still going to be problems. I mean, that's just life. It's not going to be like perfect all the time. But anyway, so that's that. What was I before? I was a painter. I was mostly, I've done a lot of things. Like, I taught sailing for many years on like large boats and keel boats, they're called, from like say 22 feet up to 35 foot. So I was really into sailing when I was a kid, mostly small boats then, but then as I got older, I did that for about 7 years, taught sailing. I was a carpenter, electrician. I was a courier for 15 years in San Francisco for DHL, Worldwide Express. All things that allowed me to have a creative life. Like, none of the jobs, you know, they didn't make a lot of money, that's for sure. I mean, they were okay. They definitely were, you know, but there was flexibility, and it wasn't a job that I took home with me. So, you know, there's a lot of sacrifices you make as a creative person. You're never going to be, like, if you get a desk, you know, if you get some kind of like executive job or whatever, or, you know, obviously there's more money, but then there's also more of yourself that you have to give to that job. So it's kind of a trade-off. So anyway, I always wanted jobs that were not going to, you know, that would support me enough that I could actually have a creative life and do creative things. And so, yeah, so, and that's allowed me to do things like learn how to play different instruments, or learn how to do photography or painting, and all these different things. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, once you're a certain age, you can't learn new things. It's completely not true. In fact, I think that when you're older, you can learn, in some ways, you can learn better. The thing that kids have, or young people have, that older people don't have, is time. And as you get older and older, more and more responsibility starts piling onto you, you know, whether it's job or relationships and family and mortgage and all this stuff. So I've always tried to keep those things simple, like not incur a lot of expenses, always kind of live cheap in a way, try not to acquire a lot of possessions and a lot of things that demand, you know, my finances, whether it's like maintenance or whatever. Just keeping things cheap gives you a lot of freedom, and freedom was always like the most important thing. And I think if you're thinking about being an artist, that's definitely a key, is freedom. That's what it's all about, you know, really. And so anyhow, I don't know if I answered the question. All right, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so what else? I think there's one more. Oh, what's the hardest thing about being a dad? I'd say one of the hardest things about being a dad, and this may be just the hardest thing about being a parent, maybe, is allowing your kid to F up, to make mistakes, and to be able to, you know, not get in there and solve every problem or handle everything. I mean, they talk about like helicopter moms or helicopter parents, parents who are like micromanaging everything their kids do. I'm definitely not like that, and actually, like, Emma's mom was not like that. And even though Emma's mom and I are not together, we're good friends, and surprisingly, we've had like very little conflict at all. Like, I don't think any conflict. There's never been any major disagreements about, like, you know, whether like things like, oh, she's gonna move to LA, or you know, what she was gonna do about school or this or that. But anyway, the toughest thing, I'm digressing a bit, the toughest thing about parenting, like I said, is though allowing your child, I think, to mess up, because they have to have that freedom to make mistakes. And it's not the end of the world. It's like important to learn learn from failure, you know? I mean, I do that all the time, whether it's music or art or whatever. It's just constant failure, you know? But you learn more from your mistakes than you learn from your successes. And if you've got a parent who's like micromanaging everything you're doing, then that's taking away the opportunity for that kid to learn. But I understand it's difficult to like watch your kid make a mistake that you know the answer to, but you've got to just stand back and say, okay, you know what, they're gonna, this is not gonna work or whatever, but they'll figure it out. And so I think that's kind of the hardest thing. As I went along as a parent, I got older, you know, or more experienced, then it became easier and easier to do that. But in the beginning, I think that was the hardest thing to do as a dad, was to say, okay, I'm hands off, or even to say to your child, like, yeah, this is tough, but you can do it, you know? And I think that instills confidence. Whereas if you like jump in and you start solving everything and doing everything, and you never give your kid the chance to actually struggle, fail, and then maybe try again and succeed. That builds confidence. So anyway, but I'm no expert. I'm just, you know, but that's my experience, and that's how I've, you know, been with my child, with Emma. And there's been plenty of things. I'll tell you a little story. There was a time, like, Emma's always been a very strong-headed kid, you know, and she's always been a good student. But I remember one time, she was maybe like 6th grade, and she was like, oh, Daddy, can you help me with my math or whatever? And I started helping her, and I was patiently helping, and she was like, no, she got really frustrated and everything. And she was like, I was like to her, I said, hey, I said, this isn't my homework, right? This is your homework. If you want me to help you with it, you know, then you've got to at least be like, you know, patient and appreciative or whatever. So I was like, sorry, you know, it's yours. This is your problem. This is your homework. Deal with it. And I was like, I don't care if you get an F or not. It's like, this is your problem, whatever. And I remember walking away like thinking, wow, maybe that's too harsh, you know? Like, I really laid it on her lap. I was like, that's your schoolwork. It's your homework. Fail, do whatever. It's your problem. It's not my problem. But I stood by it, you know? And then I remember like after that, when she'd have a problem with a teacher, she was constantly emailing teachers. She handled all the communication. She handled everything. There were times in the future where she did ask, like, you know, I was kind of good at geometry and stuff, but I wasn't a great student in other things. Also was good actually in English and stuff with writing and things like that. But like when it came to biology and all that, she was taking all advanced classes. So she, like, you know, by 10th grade, she knew, you know, had more academic, you know, sort of background than I did, even probably through college. But anyway, but I could help with like things like geometry and everything, and we worked together and it was fine. But anyway, so yeah, that's really long-winded. But I think it's just allowing your kid to struggle and fail and step off, you know, and let them have that. And even though it's hard, it does, like I say, build confidence. Are there any other questions here? I think that's probably enough. I don't know how long I've been going on here, but I'm gonna go today and go to a coffee shop and go sit and work on that computer and try to edit tomorrow's video with that. So I'll have a video tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a fun one. I had a great time in the city, hung out there all day. It was cool. Tons of cable cars for you guys. Like really, I just like filmed tons of cable cars because I know you guys like them so much. Anyway, so that's the scoop. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.